Hello, welcome to the show. This is your host Ganes Kesari. Today I have Eran Eshed, the co-founder and CEO of Fairtility. Eran, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Eran, can you share how you got started with Fairtility and what is the problem that you're addressing?
So, my background is technology. I've been developing different products and exploring different technologies for over 25 years, built companies, sold companies, but it's always been about technology and less about, the application. And before we started Fairtility, I was really looking for something that had more of a meaning, a do good type of a thing. But since I'm a technologist, I was looking for where I could, what I've learned, technical business skills. So together with my co-founder, the CTO, we connected with our chief medical officer. We did have a general direction that we wanted to do something in healthcare. And since my partner, my CTO, he's an AI expert, naturally, we were looking for AI applications. And we came across the field of fertility where we realized how much things were, being done the same way for so many years, how little data was being used. So we thought that would, be probably a good area. Mm-hmm. And since then, we've learned a lot and we expanded our vision significantly.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. The process of IVF in the recent decades has progressed and it's a sophisticated technology in itself. So how are you bringing in AI and analytics into this and improving the process?
So surprisingly, IVF has been around for 40 some odd years. There's been quite a few innovations on the biotech side of things, things like genetic testing and ICSI and so on. But again, surprisingly, there's zero usage of data science, and techniques like artificial intelligence to extract insights from this data. So essentially, clinicians, embryologists, REIs make many decisions or many decision junctures throughout the process. These decisions are based on experience, intuition, and a set of very rudimentary rules. So we're set to change that and inject data science into that process.
Okay, that's good to hear. I've come across organizations where they have been working with pen and paper, the traditional organizations, and they find it difficult to move and apply data analytics and particularly start collecting the data, digitizing data as a prerequisite there. Whereas here, it may not be that difficult, but it's surprising that today you're saying that organizations mostly, at least, they don't use data or data analytics to do it in a very sophisticated way. Can you lay out the process at a high level, and which are the points where you're collecting data and where are you applying AI?
So IVF, starts with the assessment of the infertility cause, then moves into the stimulation phase, where the doctor determines what is the best stimulation protocol, ovarian stimulation, then fertilization, egg collection, sperm, fertilization, embryo culture, in the clinic, embryo transfer, and praise. This is how it works. So you'll find that typically between 5 and maybe 7 different, very strategic decision points. In the business world, we'd call them leverage points, where you can actually make a difference. You look at the prevalence gaps that exist from how many people start the process, and then how many actually go through egg collection, and then how many go through fertilizations, and how many embryos are generated. You see the percentages dropping significantly. Yeah. To the point where in most markets, the US being one of the lagging markets in that regard, per capita number of IVF babies is one of the lowest in the world. There's many reasons for that. But, we're talking about maybe 2% of population that suffers from infertility, which would be 1 of 8 couples. So 2% actually get to do IVF, which is quite amazing. So access to care is a big issue. Outcomes are an issue. The chances of getting a baby from a single IVF cycle are around 30%. So, data science can't improve quality of eggs, solve biological problems, but each and every step through, in the process where decisions are made, they can be made based on data and data insights to enhance the process. And that's not happening today.
Okay, so you're talking about more of optimization, where you're talking about this funnel, how you can do this a little bit more efficiently through smarter selection driven by data collection. So here,
Absolutely.
what kind of data are we talking about? Are these images, or are you also looking at those the numbers that you collect periodically?
So it's everything. And it's when you're looking at embryo assessment, these would be images and videos and some clinical data about the patient. But when you talk about how to optimize stimulation protocols or how, to optimize transfer time, this would be, ultrasound images, would be just data points from electronic medical record systems, treatment history, and so on. And data is a huge challenge in this space. Because it exists, but it is very dispersed. It's not curated. It's not well organized and streamlined. Part of it has to do with what you mentioned. Clinics still write on paper and file in physical files. So the trick is, how do you get quality data and how do you extract the information from these data points? And just by digitizing the whole process, you gain an end-to-end perspective. You applied a certain action in phase A. How does it impact phase G? Nobody does that today.
So how did you solve this challenge? You talked about digitization. One is getting the people within the ecosystem to digitize and follow it. And second part is you collecting and applying this to whether build smarter models. So there are two parts to the problem. How did you collect the data and how did you institutionalize this with your ecosystem of partners?
Data collection, hard work. The key is it's a give and take relationship. You're not going to get data if you cannot prove the value that you can bring to the person or the institution that gave you that data. So it's really something that starts with research. So you basically help partners research things that are of interest to them using their data. You start building models that start showing good performance. Just last month, we published an article in Nature magazine, and next month there's going to be one in Human Reproduction. So these are peer-reviewed publications. It's not easy to get these research papers accepted. So it tells you something about the robustness of the research. And if I had to maybe mention one huge challenge that exists in people accepting or even considering these kinds of solutions, even after you're proven in research, is transparency. Clinicians are not the type of professionals that you can say, here's a score, trust it, it's a computer, it's smart, we've trained it. So building that trust and that confidence is a huge task. And we pride ourselves today with being extremely transparent with our clinician partners. We don't just recommend things, we tell them why we recommend things. We allow them to dive as deep as they want.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point, transparency or explainability of models and building trust. The last, I think, 2.5 years with Fairtility, can you talk about key milestones in this adoption journey? Earlier, when you approached some of these partners, what was the response and any numbers in terms of what is the number of patients you've covered or number of healthcare partners you've been working with?
So I would say on the data side of things, first of all, data collection, we have in excess of 5 million data points. When I say data points, that means images, videos, clinical data. It's just huge data. It's all curated and annotated and used to train these models, very diverse from different geographies, different workflow, different age groups, ethnicities, what have you. So that's the foundation of the AI models. We've developed a SaaS system. It's a cloud-based system, the first of its kind. We install it in customers' premises remotely. No need to visit the clinic. It's a process that can take a few hours. And from that point, it automatically provides that analysis in a very user-friendly user interface, adhering to the most stringent HIPAA and GDPR standards, privacy and security. So it's almost seamless. The trick is, how do you get people to integrate this into their workflows? And again, we've invested a lot of work defining the product such that it will be flexible enough to fit into workflows. Today, we have 20 installations worldwide. I think so far we've probably processed more than 100,000 embryos. And in parallel, we're investing a lot in research, both retrospective research. We have, again, 2 major papers published and something like 10 additional ones in different phases. And as a company, we just completed our Series A. We've not announced it yet, so breaking news for you. We'll announce it soon, but we raised $15 million, Series A. So the company is growing, and you'll start hearing a lot more. We've been stealthy so far.
Congratulations. It's great. So can you talk about some success stories that demonstrate the impact? You mentioned about awaiting FDA approval, but are there any other points that demonstrate the impact of your solution already?
So there are various. I think one nice one is a specific clinic that found that using our system, it's called Chloe, by the way. Think of it as the Siri of IVF, if you will. So using Chloe reduced the workload on embryologists by 30%. Another clinic found that the agreement between our analysis of the embryo development stages and their embryologist assessment is, they define it as either very strong or strong. So we're in fact not trying to say that the system is more accurate. It is more accurate, okay? But it meets the best standard of care today, but it completely automates the whole thing.
Okay, yep, that's great. Final question. What do you envision as the future for fertility solutions, say 10 years down the line?
So if I take it to the extreme, there's companies today that develop an embryology lab in a box. You know, imagine a box the size of a printer, desktop printer that basically does the whole thing. You know, you insert dishes with sperm and egg, and at the end of it, there's an embryo ready to transfer, and everything in between. Now that's, you know, a long-term vision. You know, we're thinking of it as some kind of an operating system, if you will. It's just like you have an operating system with applications and tools that you run every day. We envision a framework that is connected end to end, that clinicians can use to the extent that they want, that automates, you know, so many different decision-making points. Again, there's always going to be a doctor or an embryologist behind the wheel, but they will have a digital state-of-the-art system that leverages off of not just their workflow and their, you know, 1,000 cycles a year, but nationwide number of cycles, 500,000 cycles, 1 million cycles per year. Just imagine how much, you know, impact this could have. So fully digitized platform end to end that is some kind of an operating system for IVF is the vision.
Okay, that's a bold vision, something to think about.
and right. A transparent one.
That's one of the emphasis words, yes. And that was an interesting chat, Eran. So I'm sure the audience found a lot of useful takeaways. Thanks for joining us and thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys.